Hey, friend. Before we jump into the episode, I need to tell you about something that could change the way that you show up in 2026. Vision Day. This is not your typical goal setting session. It's a half day workshop style reset designed for faith driven women in business who want to get clarity, focus, and a God aligned strategy for the year ahead. We are not just dreaming big, we are breaking it down into quarterly wins that move the needle. You are going to walk away with one clear priority and a flexible plan. Hallelujah. And also the spiritual tools to keep checking in with God and pivoting as needed. And Lord knows we all need to be able to pivot these days. Spots are limited, so grab yours now at jantouchberry.com/vision day. That's jantouchberry.com/vision day. And step into the new year with peace, purpose, and a plan. Let's get into the episode. Hey, everybody. I am really excited about this episode today. I feel like I say that every freaking week, but you know what? I just love podcasting. So maybe I do say it every freaking week. And it's okay because I am excited about my episodes. I'm excited about what I'm bringing to you today because it's something different. I've literally never done this before. And I'm hoping that it can become more of a feature that we roll out, every few weeks, maybe even. I am going to ask for your feedback on it. So I got to know if you like it or not. So you guys hit me up on Instagram, or if you're not on my email list, you should be there because that's the best way to be able to get a hold of me. You just reply because I read every single reply. Anyway, if you're not on the email list, super easy, jantouchberry.com/newsletter. You can get me there. But today's episode, we're going to do a live coaching session, you guys. I'm so excited. So this is a friend of mine and a client. I've been working with her to grow her business, to put different pieces together that she's going to need in order to grow her business over the last few months. And she generously agreed to have a coaching session with me. So she kind of got a little extra coaching that she didn't have to pay for. And in return, hopefully, we're going to get a really great podcast episode that you guys will enjoy. And it gives you a window into what I do and how I do it. And maybe you can even grab some nuggets out of this episode and apply it to what you're doing in your own business. So without further ado, let's go. Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, exploring how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith every single day in the marketplace. I felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of the few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share her faith at work. Okay, friends, this is going to be a little bit of a different podcast episode today. Y'all know I'm an avid podcast listener, and I don't even remember which podcast it was. I think I've heard them on several, but there was a podcast that I was listening to where she was doing live coaching with her clients. And I'm like, I could do that. I could totally do that. So that's what we're doing today. We're just going to roll out a live coaching session. And I am excited that my friend and client, Tracy Dempsey, is here. And she has said yes to being my first guinea pig for these new podcast episodes. So we're just going to, hopefully you guys find value out of it. And you just get to listen in as Tracy and I have a conversation about growing specific aspects of her business. And so Tracy, first of all, thank you for being the guinea pig and saying, "Yep, I'm okay talking about the inside of my business."
Fun. I love it.
People
I love it.
So tell us, just bring people up to speed. What are you doing inside your business and where are you feeling stuck right now?
So I am currently, my business is currently on my blog and social media where I reach women to encourage them to hear God's voice more clearly through journaling. And I do have some ideas that I want to get in out there in the world, but I'm feeling stuck about some of the technology pieces of that.
Okay. So I think, I mean, we've talked about this before. That is so not uncommon. Like I hear that over and over and over and over again. I recently did a, client survey. I'll link that in the show notes if you guys want to take it because I'm still accepting um, responses for that. But the number one thing that people said is tech overwhelm.
Mhm.
They just struggle with it. And for whatever reason, the Lord has not made me scared and overwhelmed by it. It actually fuels me. And so I love being able to talk about conversations just like this. So tell me the different pieces that you're looking at and what feels overwhelming to you in that tech space.
I want to create some companion journals to my blogs,
Okay.
and sometimes even the Canva piece has been a challenge for me, honestly, but I've gotten a lot more comfortable with Canva. So now it is about linking those for sale somehow, how I
Okay.
can navigate that in connection with my blog posts.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. So you're describe these companion journals that you are getting ready to release.
They're about 10 pages. They'll be PDFs.
Okay.
And yeah, that people can download.
Okay. So I'm gonna spitball this with you, right? This is open conversation. So tell me if something doesn't feel connected or right to you. But in my mind, so you already have your website set up.
Hmm.
It's currently focused on your blog.
Right.
And so in my mind, you're going to be linking, like inside your blog, you'll have a link to a companion journal, right? So you need a way to, well, I'll step back and ask the question. Are you feeling like inside the blog, you're going to be describing enough of this companion journal that it doesn't need to be this whole like Shopify layout that people need? Like they just need to, they'll already have a good feel for what it's going to be. They just need a place to go buy it, right?
Right.
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. I know that we set up your Flowdesk account, which is used primarily for your email list. Do you know if you have the Flowdesk checkout feature? Do you remember?
I've not activated that.
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. And both of them are really going to probably cost about the same and be I think be just about equal in the way that the effort and energy that it's going to take to set it up. But with Flowdesk checkout, they take your money. So you just would create a landing page basically with maybe a picture of the front of your journal, and you're going to be able to put that there. And then with checkout, people will be able to input whatever payment method they want. And once it's paid for, Flowdesk will then send them either a link right to be able to download that from like a Google Drive. That's probably what I would do is upload that PDF on Google Drive and then enable them to just download it right away. Or you can deliver it via email. So you can set up the automations inside Flowdesk to be able to, once they've paid for the companion journal, that they would get a confirmation email with a link to go download it
Okay.
from Google Drive. I think Google Drive is a piece that you're going to need no matter which direction you go, whether you do Flowdesk checkout or this other method that I think we'll explore in a second. So that's kind of if you were if you're prioritizing like a workflow, you're gonna create the PDF inside Canva. You're going to save it. Canva has two different ways to save PDFs. One's for print, and one I think is PDF standard, is what it is. You don't need the print because if people are going to print this out, they're just going to do it on their home printer and it doesn't have to be like professional print quality. So you can just choose the PDF standard to download it, and then you're going to put it on your Google Drive and grab that link. Because you're going to have multiples of these, I would probably create some sort of note system or a spreadsheet or something where you can have the name of the companion journal and the link so that you can go back really easily and find that when you need it for other things. Um, so you would have the name, the Google Drive link, and then if you use Flowdesk checkout, that'll generate a link to that landing page. So you would have that all in one place, right? So you can stay really organized and be able to find things quickly. If you decide not to do Flowdesk checkout because it is an upgraded feature on Flowdesk, you can still do it. It's just a little bit, there's probably a couple more steps that you would do. And so I think what you would end up doing is creating your landing page on your website itself instead of inside Flowdesk, which honestly, I'm a huge fan. You know that. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of sending people to your website versus somebody else's website. And so we may even decide that it's better to have the landing page on your website, even if you use Flowdesk checkout, and then just embed the actual checkout form on your website. Google loves that when they know that people are going to your website on a continual basis for whatever it is. They're going to rank your website higher and you become an expert. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
Google
that's a
is going
good
to,
point. I
yeah,
hadn't thought.
people are going to start finding you because Google is going to say, oh, Tracy's got journals for sale on her website and people are going there and so they must be good. And so then Google's going to start serving you up. Actually, on my client survey, I, I consider this a huge win because I'm a small business owner and I've just over the last year started really diving into SEO for myself. But one of the people said that they found me in a Google search. I'm like, hallelujah. So it's working. Help. So always pointing people to your website when you can instead of pointing them to somebody else's website. Big fan of that.
Okay.
So if you decide to not use Flowdesk checkout, the other way that you can take money is I like using Stripe. There are any number of different things, payment things that you can use, but I've found Stripe to be it every payment platform is going to take a percentage of your sale. But Stripe is very competitive. Like there's not a huge margin of difference between the different payment sites. Um, and Stripe for me, I've used it for multiple products and it's been very stable. Which when you're trying to get payment for something, you want a stable platform because the last thing that you want is somebody coming back to you going, "Hey, I was trying to give you money, but your thing wouldn't take it." That would be bad.
Yeah.
So we could set up a product when you're in Stripe. You set up a product, and then once you describe your product, you'll name your product, you'll set up the description of your product, and then you'll price it. And then once all that's set up, you produce a product link, and that is what you would put on your landing page for people to be able to pay. And then we would, and this is where the more complicated delivery system comes into play. So we would probably have to create, are you familiar with Zapier?
Yes, yeah, I
Okay.
got set that up.
Okay. So we would create a Zap that would go from Stripe to Flowdesk so that once Stripe has the money, then the Zap triggers the delivery email
Okay.
from Flowdesk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. How does that feel on a scale of 1 to 10? You're looking a little like,
I'm wondering if on a weekly basis how much time is something like that going to take me to do?
Well, that's a really good question. So if I'm understanding what you're asking, you're thinking that every time you do a new blog, you're going to have a new companion journal that people can download to go with it. So I think that once you have a system down, it's not really going to be that difficult. It's just creating the system because most of these things are going to be duplicatable, as in your landing page on your website. You're going to go in the back end of Show It and you're going to duplicate the page. You're going to rename it and then change whatever you need as far as the product link and maybe the picture if you decide to put the picture of the front cover. So you're not changing out a whole bunch of things. But once you get that system down, you'll know, for instance, I would think, and correct me if you have something else in your mind, but if I'm picturing your landing page, I feel like it has the cover, and then just a one short paragraph about whatever the journal is for that week, and then the payment link. Grab your journal here, just a button. And so when you're doing your blog, then you know what the journal prompt is. You are creating this journal prompt, and I don't know how long that process takes for you to do inside Canva. How long has that been taking you for the ones that you've created already?
A couple hours, probably two.
2 hours? Okay.
Yeah, to
Uh,
create the content and yeah.
yeah. So are these journal prompts specific to each blog, or if you
Yes.
so they're very specific. You can't like reuse the journals for different topics.
You might be able to reuse them, but they are intended to be specific to the blog.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like your weekly process is probably going to be 4 hours. I mean, it's not too bad considering most people work at a job for 40 plus.
Yeah. Well, and I like the concept of it kicking in the SEO and people going to my website. So that's a really good point to consider as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So I think again, if you've got your thing inside Flowdesk with Flowdesk checkout, you're just going to go to that workflow and you're going to re duplicate that page, change out what you need to change, and then it's done. So it's that initial creation of the system that's going to take you a little bit longer, but once it's created and you get in a rhythm, it's just a lot of duplicating what's already there. And so it's not going to take you near as long once everything is already set up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how how does that feel on the overwhelm scale?
Maybe right now a five. But if once I had it set up, then I would probably be down to a two.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
I would consider that a win. That's really good. Um, do you feel like there's anything that's not clear with this now? Like, do you feel like it's something that you can, does it have handles on it enough that you feel like you
Yes.
can go do it?
Yes, this helped describe it enough to me because before I just didn't even have a concept of it. So
Oh,
now
good.
I
Okay.
have an understanding of how it could work and what my options are.
Okay, good. So do you have any other questions?
My other thing that I want to get started is a podcast. So just
Okay.
suggestions about how to do that simply. I don't have a lot of equipment or anything like that.
Sure. Um, so podcasting can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. Um, the I would say there is a way to do it for pretty much free. If, people like free 99. I like free 99. Um, so you're gonna once you have your podcast concept, you're gonna need good podcast description. You're gonna have to have a good podcast tagline. Naming your podcast is a whole other thing. You want to make sure that you're naming your podcast something that is what people are searching for, not what's cutesy. And I know that's really hard for people because they want to have this kitschy, clever name for their podcasts. And I'm trying to think of like a silly example. Like if you have a podcast called Balaam's Donkey, I mean, that's kind of a cool podcast name, but nobody knows what the heck it's about,
Right.
right? And I feel like so many podcasts fall into that category that people look at the name of it and it can have great, compelling podcast art, but the name is like, I don't know what this is about. Why would I listen to this podcast? And so I think you have to be clear, not clever. That's very important. And so when you're thinking through the name of your podcast, run it through that grid first. And then you always are going to want a good tagline, and the tagline is full of keywords. It's this is probably another workshop that I need to offer. Maybe that's a 2026 offering is podcast workshop so that people can work through how to do it and then we're actually hands-on. Here's what you do. Now go do it. And then we come back and kind of like what we do in the collab
Mhm.
business basics collab. Maybe that'll be an add-on to the business
I
basics
love that.
2026. Um, and then you can just start recording. Now, there are people who use their iPhone and literally just record into their iPhone, which is fine.
Yep.
There is a very, very popular, like millions and millions of downloads podcast where he literally does his podcast episode every day while he's commuting to work. And it's him hitting the record button in his car. So there's all the car noise, all the things. And he just records it and he puts it out
Mhm.
and people love it. And so while I am a big proponent of good audio, because I think it's important, it also clearly there are case studies that you don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on your podcast setup to be successful because there are people who don't and are incredibly successful. It really is content, right? So you can use your earbuds, you can use your phone, I have a podcast mic that I bought on Amazon. And I've upgraded over the years, right? So I started with, it was probably 69.99, little blue Yeti podcast mic. And now I use a Samsung that I've paid a little bit more for, and it you can definitely tell the difference in the quality. Um, so that really is kind of the only equipment that a person really needs is just the a way to record and some audio to be able to capture. I do all my podcasts through Zoom. And so even my own personal ones that I don't that I'm not recording with a guest, I still do it through Zoom. And that's how I capture the file and then I edit after that. You can edit super simply, and so it does not have to be complicated. I do not do a whole bunch of editing when I'm doing my podcast. Like if there's a huge mess up, I'll edit that out. But for the most part, I mean, y'all, if you're listening to this podcast, you know that there are coughs, there are sniffs, there are sneezes, there are oops, there are ums, there are ahs, there are let me start this over. I think in my last podcast that just dropped, it was like, "Blah, blah, I can't talk today." So it does perfection is not a thing anymore. People don't need perfection. In fact, perfection is a little off-putting. And so, and then use Spotify for podcasters. You can set up a free account and they will host your podcast for you and spread it to all of the other podcast platforms. So you're not having to pay for your podcast platform either. So it's free podcast art in Canva, and they have a ton of templates that you can use. It's a little bit of work with your favorite AI companion that knows you really well, that can help you with your podcast description and all of those types of things. And you'll want to use the right prompts because you don't want it to sound AI. But I know that you inside the Business Basics Club have worked to really hone your AI intern. Her name is Jenny, and she does a
We're
good job.
working,
Yeah.
working on our relationship.
Right. But Jenny does a good job knowing who you are and how you sound because you've trained her. And I think that's super important. Um, and so Jenny is going to be able to help you generate all kind of the assets that you're going to need to get started. And then just start.
Okay, so Spotify will send it out to the other.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you can list, I personally would list on every single podcast network that Spotify offers it to go out to.
Okay.
It'll take you, um, like if we did this in a Business Basics collab session, we could get your podcast done in 4 hours for sure.
Okay.
So half a day, and you would be able to get it finished. Um, there are there are techniques and processes and things like that that you can put into place to get it found and to climb the charts and all of those things that would be ancillary to actually getting it launched. But it does not have to be a difficult process to get it launched. You just have to decide, I want to get it done and I'm going to do it now. That's exactly how I started. The Lord had been telling me, you need to be podcasting and you need to do it now. And so I did a 2-day workshop in January of 2023. And by the end of the 2 days, it was knocked out and I hit publish and it was out into the world.
How many would you suggest I have ready to upload right off the bat?
They say to have multiples ready to go, but I didn't. I think consistency is the key. It's just from having done this for almost 2 years now, I can tell you that it's always good to have extras like kind of waiting in the wings so that you can pre-schedule out so that it's not like, oh my gosh, I got to publish an episode tomorrow night and I don't have anything. What am I going to talk about? Right.
Right.
And so I feel like it's always good to to do batch recording and kind of have some scheduled for the next few weeks so that if something happened, if life lifed and you could not get on and record a new episode, you would have one that would go out anyway. But you can work up to that. I didn't do that for a long time. And so again, start messy. Just start.
What are your thoughts on using similar content to what I'm using in another area, like on Instagram, if I do a reel,
Yep.
is it okay to expand on that in my podcast?
I would do it the other way around. I
Okay.
would take your podcast because that's your long form content. In my mind, you're always starting with your long form content, which is blog or podcast. So you would have two long form contents. So here's what I would do for you, knowing your business and where your passion lies, which is writing. Your blog is your starting point. And so you write a blog and then you look at that and you run it through Jenny, your AI and assistant, and say, take this blog post and create I don't know how long you want to make your podcast, 10, 15 minutes. Make this into a podcast outline that's 10 to 15 minutes long. And so Jenny will take that blog post and she'll make an outline for you. And then depending on how you want to work within your podcast, you can just roll with that outline or you can keep asking Jenny to do more and asking Jenny to do more as you are kind of molding the content. And she can regenerate and regenerate and regenerate and regenerate. And so that's kind of what I like. I start with an idea. I don't start with my blog. My blog is second. So I'll start with an idea and I will put it my podcast AI companion is Grace. And so I will talk to Grace and I'll say, "Hey, I here's the idea that I want to podcast on. Help me create an outline." And so we go back and forth and we create an outline that feels good. I make sure that she has a real good idea of the flow. Sometimes she comes up with weird things. Weird. It's like, okay, where did that come from? Because I would never say that. Not in a million trillion years. And I don't know about Jenny, but Grace loves alliteration. I'm like, no, no. Like sanctified and whatever else starts with S. And I'm like, I would never say that.
Right.
So, anyway, so I work with Grace back and forth to get the outline where I want it. And then I'll say, okay, I want you to do a first draft of a podcast script. And so Grace drafts the script and we go back and forth a few times. And then when she gets it to a point where I'm like, okay, she can't take it any further, then I take it, I copy it out of ChatGPT and I put it into a Google Doc and I massage that into exactly what I want to say. And that becomes my podcast episode that I'm using that script. And I don't usually do the script verbatim. I'll interject things as I'm going and as the Lord brings them to mind. And but it's a real good format for me to be able to just go through and have it just A to Z. And then when the podcast is done, I'll take that and put it into the blog. So you would be working backwards from that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And then once those are done, so if you're doing in Zoom, right, you take that video and then you can run it through depending on like I pay for a thing called Opus Clips. And so I'll put my video into Opus Clips and it pops out different little I can tell it I want 30-second clips, I want 90-second clips, I want 3-minute things for YouTube, I want 10-minute things for YouTube. And so it does a lot of that for me. And then you can go back again, AI, but you go back in and you can massage the start and end of things inside there until you get them the way that you want them. And then you download them and your social content is done and your YouTube content is done. And so it's this beautiful content waterfall that starts with the big thing and flows out into the smaller pieces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is why I love talking to you. You have so many ideas and make it easier in the parts that I would just be overwhelmed and shut down. So,
Oh, good. Well, good. I hope that works. And I hope that in 2026, we're going to have a Tracy Dempsey podcast. You have a name, right?
yes, from
What?
my journal to yours.
Yay! I'm so excited about that. All right. Any other questions before we wrap this up?
No, this was great.
Okay. Thank you so much for being my guinea pig, y'all. I hope that this has been an interesting episode for you of Her Faith at Work. And if you want to hear more live coaching sessions, will you let me know? Just shoot me a DM or get on my email list. It's jantouchbury.com/newsletter, and you can let me know feedback there. Until then, see you next time. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. Super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.